Ryan's office revenge. You know how it is when someone's about to screw you over, but they're trying to make it sound like they're doing you a favor. That's exactly what was happening when Ryan Foster started talking about market realities. I'm sitting in his corner office, the one with the mahogany desk and the view of the parking lot, and this guy in his $400 suit is sliding a piece of paper across to me like he's handing me a gift. "Lucas," he says, adjusting that tie of his, "you need to understand the market realities here." Market realities. Right. I'm Lucas Rodriguez, by the way. 56 years old, been keeping machines running for more years than I care to count. Did my time in the Navy first. 8 years fixing things that absolutely had to work because people's lives depended on it. You don't get second chances when you're floating in the middle of the Pacific with a busted radar system. So anyway, I'm looking at this paper, and there's my new compensation adjustment. 20 years with this company, and they're giving me a 3.2% raise. 3.2%. My grocery bill went up more than that last year. But here's the kicker. And this is where the story gets interesting. I already knew exactly how much that Stanford MBA kid in the next office was making. Jordan Brooks, 31 years old, been here exactly 14 months, and he's pulling down $220,000 a year as Director of Digital Innovation. Me? After 2 decades of keeping this place from falling apart? $145,000. You're probably wondering how I knew his salary, right? Well, let me tell you about the beautiful thing that happened 3 days before this meeting. Some genius in HR, probably juggling too many spreadsheets after their 3rd coffee, accidentally sent me the wrong email. Instead of the safety protocol update I was supposed to get, I got the quarterly compensation summary for all senior staff. 20 years I've been here at Apex Manufacturing. We make components for military vehicles. Nothing fancy, just critical stuff that has to work every single time. When I started, this place was held together with duct tape and hope. Ancient Siemens controllers running production lines, jury-rigged safety systems that nobody understood, and documentation that was basically sticky notes and prayers. I made myself the guy who knew how it all worked. Not because I wanted to be indispensable, but because someone had to understand this mess, and everybody else was too busy or too scared to dig into it. You know those old Allen Bradley PLCs from the 90s? I could troubleshoot those in my sleep. The custom interlocks that would shut down the whole line if someone sneezed wrong? I wrote half of them. People started coming to me with the problems nobody else could solve. Ask Lucas, he'll know. First it was just the guys on my shift. Then it became the whole engineering department. Then it became company policy. When something broke at 2 a.m. on a Sunday, guess who got the call? I remember this one time, maybe my 2nd year here, we had a complete system failure on a Friday night before Memorial Day weekend. We're talking about a defense contract with penalty clauses that would have cost us close to $1 million if we missed the Monday deadline. The whole production control system just died. Wouldn't even boot up. Everybody's panicking. The plant manager's calling the CEO CEO's calling whoever CEOs call when their world's falling apart. And meanwhile, I'm down on the floor with a laptop and a multimeter, tracing through circuits and trying to figure out what went wrong. Turns out someone had upgraded the firmware on the main controller without testing it first. Classic. The new version had a different memory map, so all our custom programming was trying to write data to locations that didn't exist anymore. Took me about 6 hours to figure it out. Another 4 to rebuild everything from backups and get it running again. We made that deadline with about 3 hours to spare. The CEO at the time, guy named Spencer Clark, who actually understood what we did here, sent me an email that just said, "You saved us. Thank you." That was it. But it meant something back then. That was the job, though. Keep things running, solve the problems that would shut us down, do the work that made everybody else look good. Document everything because you never know when you'll need to remember why you did something a certain way 5 years ago when the machine starts acting up again. But then things changed. Spencer retired, and the board brought in Ryan Foster with his consulting background and his big ideas about digital transformation. Suddenly, we're talking about Industry 4.0 and optimizing synergies, and a whole bunch of other buzzwords that sound great in PowerPoint presentations, but don't mean much when you're trying to figure out why Line 3 keeps jamming every Tuesday. Ryan brought in his own people. Young guys with expensive educations and impressive resumes who could talk the talk but had never actually run a production floor. They created strategy frameworks and optimization models, but when the emergency alarm went off, they were looking around for someone who actually knew which button to push. That someone was still me. So here I am, 20 years later, still getting those 2 a.m. phone calls, still the guy who keeps this place from falling apart, and they're offering me 3.2%. Meanwhile, Jordan Brooks, who spent his first month asking me what SCADA stands for, is making 50% more than me because he went to Stanford and knows how to make pretty charts. Take the weekend to think it over, Ryan's saying now, drumming his fingers on that mahogany desk, like this is just routine business. We believe this reflects your value to the organization appropriately. I didn't need the weekend. Hell, I didn't need another minute. I reached into my jacket and pulled out an envelope I'd been carrying around for 3 days, ever since I saw that spreadsheet. Already signed, already dated. I just had to fill in the time. 3:15 p.m., I wrote, then slid it back across his desk. "What's this?" he asks, though he knows damn well what it is. "My resignation, effective immediately. You should have seen his face." Ryan's staring at my resignation letter like I just dropped a live grenade on his desk. His mouth's moving, but no sound's coming out. You know that look people get when their brain can't process what just happened? That was Ryan. "You can't be serious," he finally manages. "Lucas, let's talk about this. Maybe there's room for adjustment." "There isn't," I said, standing up. "You just told me what I'm worth to this company after 20 years. I believe you. That's the clearest message you've sent me in a long time. At least give us 2 weeks. Help with the transition." I had to laugh at that one. My documentation's all there, Ryan. Every procedure, every quirk, every workaround. You just need someone who can understand it. What I didn't tell him was that my documentation covered normal operations. The weird stuff. The stuff that only comes up when everything goes sideways. That was all in my head. 20 years of, oh yeah, when this happens, you gotta do that weird thing with the backup controller kind of knowledge. By 3:18, my badge wouldn't scan at the security door. By 3:25, my laptop screen went black. It had wiped it remotely. By 3:30, my company phone was dead. They don't mess around when you quit, I'll give them that. I walked through the production floor one last time, collecting my stuff. My coffee mug with the faded USS Enterprise logo on it. The photo of my daughter at her Navy commissioning. She outranked me by the time she was 25, which made me proud as hell. And my leather notebook, the one I'd kept for years with all the little things that never made it into the official documentation. Casey Anderson, one of my senior techs, caught my eye as I was walking out. He gave me this look that said everything he couldn't say out loud. Casey's solid people. Been there 12 years, knows the systems almost as well as I do. Almost. "Take care of yourself, Case," I said. And he nodded. I was sitting in my pickup truck in the parking lot when my personal phone buzzed. Email from Patriot Systems, the family-owned defense contractor I'd been talking to for the past month. They'd made me an offer 3 weeks ago, contingent on, "When can you start?" "Tomorrow morning," I typed back. That felt good. What happened next? Well, I heard about it later from Casey. But let me tell you what I know happened at exactly 4:03 p.m., because I designed those monitoring systems myself. The first alert would have been on line 3. That's our main assembly line for the armored vehicle components. The safety interlock system started throwing error codes. Nothing major at first, just warnings that the backup sensors weren't reading properly. In normal circumstances, I would have gotten a text, driven back in, and fixed it in about 20 minutes. Some loose connection or a sensor that needed cleaning. But I wasn't there. By 4:15, the warnings had escalated to alarms. The main production controller was getting conflicting signals from the safety system. When that happens, the whole line shuts down automatically. We're dealing with military-grade stuff here, so safety protocols don't mess around. That's when the phone calls started. First call was from Parker Williams, the CFO. I let it go to voicemail. He called again immediately. I declined it again. His message was exactly what you'd expect. "Lucas, we have an urgent situation. Please call back immediately." Then Ryan called. I sent that one to voicemail too. His text message was even better. "Critical system issues. Can we discuss terms?" By 4:45, according to Casey, they had 7 people in an emergency meeting. Ryan, Parker, Jordan, the Wonder Boy, Hunter Davis, our plant manager, someone from legal, the quality director, and some guy from operations I'd never heard of. Casey told me later he'd never seen executives move that fast. They went from "Lucas who?" to "Where the hell is Lucas?" in about 30 minutes. See, here's what they didn't understand about those systems. Everything was connected. The safety interlocks talked to the production controller, which talked to the quality management system, which fed data to the shipping department, which updated the delivery schedules for our defense contracts. When Line 3 went down, it didn't just stop that one line. It started a cascade failure through the whole operation. The backup line tried to compensate, but it wasn't rated for the full production load. By 5:30, it was throwing overheating warnings. By 6:00, they had to shut that one down too. Now they've got zero production on a $12 million defense contract with delivery penalties of $850,000 per day. Jordan, bless his heart, apparently tried to help. According to Casey, he walked into that emergency meeting with his laptop and a confident smile, ready to solve the crisis with his strategic framework knowledge. "I've been working closely with Lucas on optimization initiatives," he announced. "I should be able to guide the team through this." Hunter Davis, who's been running plant operations for 15 years and doesn't suffer fools gladly, looked at him like he'd just volunteered to perform brain surgery. "You understand the interlock sequence for Line 3? Hunter asked. "I understand the strategic framework," Jordan said. "The technical team can handle the implementation details." "The technical team is lost," Hunter shot back, "because the one person who understood how everything connected just walked out the door. Can you restart the main production controller?" "That's an execution-level detail," Jordan said, "which is consultant speak for I have no idea what you're talking about. Hunter's not a patient man. Can you restart the controller?" he repeated. Long pause. "I'd need to review the documentation." That's when Casey spoke up from the phone. They'd called him in remotely to try to help. "There is no documentation for this specific failure mode," he said. "This is the kind of thing Lucas diagnosed in 5 minutes because he'd seen it before. We've got conflicting error codes from 3 different systems, and they're all pointing to different problems. By 7 p.m., they'd called in emergency contractors at $15,000 per hour minimum. These guys were good. They knew industrial control systems, but they didn't know our systems. Every question they asked, Casey had to answer with, "That's something Lucas set up," or Lucas would know that. Meanwhile, I'm at home, having a beer and reading through the welcome packet from Patriot Systems. My new boss, Logan Bennett, was a Navy guy like me. Built the company from the ground up after he got tired of corporate politics. His email from earlier that day was still making me smile. "Welcome to a place that actually values what you bring." The phone kept ringing. Ryan called 3 more times. Parker called twice. Even Hunter called, and I actually respected Hunter. I answered that one. "Lucas," he said, and I could hear the exhaustion in his voice. "I'm not calling to beg you to come back. I'm calling to tell you that you were right, and I'm sorry we let this happen." That meant something, coming from Hunter. "What's the damage?" I asked. "Both lines down." We're looking at minimum 3 days to get back to partial production, maybe a week for full capacity. The defense contract? He trailed off. The defense contract's got penalty clauses, I said. $850K per day. And that's just the financial hit. The real damage is to our reputation with DoD. We talked for maybe 10 more minutes. Hunter's a straight shooter. He told me exactly what was happening. Didn't try to sugarcoat it or manipulate me into feeling guilty. Just gave me the facts. When I hung up, I felt, I don't know. Not guilty, exactly. Not happy either. Just satisfied that the consequences were finally matching the decisions that led to them. You make choices, and choices have costs. They'd chosen to value credentials over competence, and now they were paying the real price for that choice. The next morning, I'm sitting in Logan Bennett's office at Patriot Systems, drinking coffee that actually tastes like coffee instead of the burnt motor oil they served at Apex. Logan's got this corner office, but it's not fancy. Just functional. Pictures of Navy ships on the wall, awards from satisfied customers, and a big whiteboard covered with actual engineering diagrams instead of corporate strategy nonsense. So, Logan says, leaning back in his chair, I heard some interesting news about your former employer this morning. Word travels fast in the defense contractor world, especially when someone screws up a delivery to the Pentagon. What did you hear? I asked, though I had a pretty good idea. Complete production shutdown, missing a major deadline, emergency contractors charging them a fortune. He grins. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you? I told him the whole story, the compensation meeting, the resignation, what I knew about the Cascade failure. Logan just nodded along like he'd heard this tale before. Same thing happened at my last company, he said when I finished. Different details, same stupidity. They brought in some hotshot MBA, reorganized everything, pushed out the guys who actually knew how things worked. 6 months later, they lost their biggest client because nobody could deliver what they promised. That's when I knew I'd made the right choice. Meanwhile, back at Apex, things were getting worse. Casey called me that evening, using his personal phone, of course, to fill me in on the damage. It's a complete mess, Lucas, he said. They got one line partially running this afternoon, but it's throwing quality errors every 20 minutes. The emergency contractors are scratching their heads because our setup is so customized. And Jordan... He laughed, but not the happy kind. Jordan asked me if we could just restart everything from scratch. You gotta understand, restarting a manufacturing line isn't like rebooting your laptop. These systems have to calibrate, run test sequences, verify safety protocols. For our setup, a complete restart would take minimum 8 hours, assuming nothing went wrong. And something always goes wrong. How's Hunter holding up? I asked. Hunter's doing his best, but he's fighting with management every hour. They keep asking him why we can't just work around the problems. He finally lost it in a meeting today and told them that 20 years of institutional knowledge doesn't get replaced by Googling how to fix production line. The real kick in the teeth came day 3. Their biggest client, a prime contractor for the Army's new armored vehicle program, sent an inspection team. These weren't customer service people. These were serious military engineers who needed to verify that Apex could actually deliver what they'd promised. The inspection didn't go well. Casey told me the whole story later. The Army guys showed up expecting to see a smooth operation, and instead they found emergency contractors trying to figure out why Line 3 was producing parts with dimensional tolerances outside specifications. When they asked to speak to the senior engineer responsible for quality systems, they got directed to Jordan. Jordan, bless his heart, tried to explain the strategic framework for quality optimization while standing next to a line that was literally producing defective parts. The Army inspector, a guy named Colonel Martinez, who'd been doing this for 20 years, just stood there with this look on his face like he was watching a train wreck in slow motion. "Where's your quality control documentation?" the colonel asked. Jordan pulls out his laptop and starts showing PowerPoint slides about continuous improvement methodologies. "Not your improvement plan," Martinez said. "Your actual quality control documentation. The procedures, the specifications, the testing protocols." That's when they had to admit that the guy who wrote all that stuff, me, was no longer with the company. The inspection team left without signing off on anything. 2 days later, Apex got a formal letter suspending the contract pending resolution of quality assurance concerns. $12 million contract. Gone. But wait, it gets better. Word of the failed inspection spread through the defense contractor network faster than gossip in a small town. Within a week, 2 other clients started asking uncomfortable questions about Apex's ability to deliver. One of them, a Navy contract worth $8 million annually, decided not to renew when their current agreement expired. Parker, the CFO, was apparently going crazy trying to calculate the total financial impact. Between the penalty clauses, the lost contracts, the emergency contractors, and the production delays, they were looking at close to $30 million in direct costs. That's not counting the reputation damage or the fact that their stock price dropped 15% when news of the Army contract cancellation leaked. Meanwhile, I'm settling into my new job like a guy who's finally found where he belongs. Patriot Systems was everything Apex wasn't. They hired people who actually knew what they were doing. They valued experience over credentials. They paid people what they were worth. My first week, Logan introduced me around as the guy who's going to help us avoid the mistakes other companies make. Not the guy with 20 years experience or our new senior engineer. The guy who's going to help us avoid mistakes. That told me everything I needed to know about how they thought. Within a month, I was effectively running their entire quality systems operation. Within 2 months, Logan offered me the CTO position with full equity. Not because I'd asked for it, but because he could see what I brought to the table, and he wanted to make sure I had every reason to stay. The real satisfaction came about 6 months later when Logan got an interesting phone call. Apex Manufacturing wanted to hire Patriot as a consultant to help them rebuild their production systems. They specifically asked if I'd be willing to lead the project. "What should I tell them?" Logan asked, grinning like he already knew the answer. I thought about it for about 5 seconds. "Tell them I'll consider it under one condition." "What's that?" "They implement a policy where technical expertise gets compensated the same as strategic leadership positions, where someone with 20 years of experience doesn't make less than someone with 2 years and an MBA, where they create real career paths for engineers that don't require them to become managers to get paid fairly." Logan made the call right there in front of me. I could hear the desperate edge in Ryan's voice even from across the room when he agreed to the conditions without even negotiating. 2 weeks later, I'm walking back into Apex as a consultant at $4,500 per hour. The same building, the same production floor, but everything was different now. Ryan was gone, pursued other opportunities according to the company announcement. Parker was gone too. Jordan had quietly transferred to some marketing analytics firm where his PowerPoint skills were actually useful. Hunter was still there, now promoted to VP of Operations, and he was the one who greeted me at the door. "Strangest thing," he said, shaking my hand. "Turns out when you pay people what they're worth and treat them with respect, they tend to stick around and do good work." "Revolutionary concept," I said. "The consulting project went well. We rebuilt their systems properly this time, with redundancy and proper documentation. More importantly, we built a culture where the people who actually did the work got the recognition and compensation they deserved. I worked with them for 4 months total, billing enough hours to buy a new truck, and still have money left over for my daughter's wedding. Every invoice I sent felt like a small piece of justice. 3 years later, I'm sitting in my office at Patriot Systems, my office as the CTO, when I get an email that makes me smile. It's from a woman named Rachel Lewis, an engineer at Apex I'd never met, but who'd heard about what happened. "Mr. Rodriguez," she wrote, "I wanted you to know that the policy changes that came after you left changed my career. I was stuck at the same level for 15 years, despite consistently delivering results. After the technical excellence track was implemented, I was promoted to principal engineer with a 50% pay increase. I found out later that you'd made that a condition of your consulting work. You left, but you made it better for those of us who stayed. Thank you." I printed that email and keep it in my desk drawer. It means more to me than all the apologies from executives trying to cover their backsides. You know what the funny thing is? None of this had to happen. If Ryan had just offered me a fair adjustment, say bringing me up to $180,000, which would have been reasonable for someone with my experience, I probably would have stayed. I wasn't looking to get rich, just wanted to be paid what I was worth. Instead, they chose to value an MBA over 20 years of keeping their operation running. They chose buzzwords over expertise. They chose to believe that someone who could make a pretty PowerPoint was more valuable than someone who could actually fix their problems. And it cost them everything. I've thought a lot about that choice over the years. See, in the Navy, we had this saying, "Choose your rate. Choose your fate." It meant that the job you picked would determine how your career went. But it applies to more than just military jobs. Every choice has consequences. And eventually, those consequences catch up with you. Apex chose to undervalue the people who actually did the work. The consequence was losing $30 million, nearly going out of business. Ryan chose to prioritize credentials over competence. The consequence was losing his job and his reputation in the industry. Jordan chose to fake expertise he didn't have. The consequence was being exposed when things got real. Me? I chose to value myself enough to walk away when they wouldn't. The consequence was finding a place that actually appreciated what I brought to the table. These days, I spend a lot of time mentoring younger engineers. Not because I have to, but because I want to. I see too many good people, especially guys my age who've been doing this work for decades, getting pushed aside for younger, cheaper, more credentialed employees. I tell them what I wish someone had told me 20 years ago. Know your worth, document your value, and don't be afraid to walk away from people who refuse to see it. Last month, I was speaking at a manufacturing conference about building sustainable engineering teams. During the Q&A, a guy about my age asked how to handle situations where companies undervalue technical expertise. First, I said, make sure you can prove your worth. Document everything you do. Keep track of problems you solve, money you save, crises you prevent. Most companies don't understand the value of prevention. They only see the cost when things go wrong. Second, know the market. What are people with your skills making elsewhere? Don't guess, find out. You can't negotiate from a position of strength if you don't know what strength looks like. Third, be prepared to walk away. I don't mean quit in a huff because you're mad. I mean have a plan. Build relationships in the industry. Keep your skills current. Always be ready to move if you need to. And finally, I said, looking right at him, don't feel guilty about choosing yourself. Your loyalty should be earned, not assumed. Companies that don't value their people shouldn't be surprised when those people find somewhere that does. After the session, that same guy came up to me. I think I'm in the same situation you were in, he said. I'm 52, been with my company for 18 years, and I just found out they're paying new hires with MBAs more than they pay me. I'm scared to leave because I don't want to let my team down. Your team will survive, I told him. If they can't, that's a management problem, not your problem. You don't owe loyalty to organizations that don't show loyalty to you. 6 months later, he sent me a LinkedIn message. He'd taken a position with a competitor, got a 40% raise, and the respect he deserved. His old company tried to counteroffer after he gave notice, but by then it was too late. Some lessons can only be learned the hard way. That's the thing about respect in this business. It's not something you can demand or fake. It has to be earned through competence and results. But once you earn it, you shouldn't have to keep proving it every day just to get paid what you're worth. I built something good at Patriot Systems. We've got 85 engineers now, and every single one of them knows exactly what they need to do to advance their career. No politics, no credential games, no wondering if they're valued. We pay market rates, we promote based on contribution, and we treat people like the professionals they are. And you know what? We've never had a critical system failure. We've never missed a delivery deadline. We've never lost a client because we couldn't deliver what we promised. Turns out when you value the people who do the work gets done right. Sometimes I run into people from my old life at industry events. Hunter's doing well. He's now the COO at Apex, and they've turned things around. Casey got promoted to engineering manager, and he's building the kind of team I always wished I could have built there. Even ran into Ryan at a conference last year. He's working as an independent consultant now, helping companies avoid the mistakes he made. He saw me across the room and came over to talk. "Lucas," he said, "I owe you an apology, a real one." "You already apologized," I said. "No, I apologized for the crisis. I should apologize for the 20 years before the crisis. For every time we took you for granted, for building systems that rewarded the wrong things, for not listening when you tried to tell us." He looked older, humbler. "I consult now, helping companies build better engineering cultures. I tell them about what happened with you, about how we lost everything because we couldn't see the value of what we had. Some learn from it," he said. "Some don't. The ones who don't usually learn the same way we did, the expensive way." We talked for a few more minutes. I didn't feel angry anymore, just glad that I'd made the choice I made. That's the real lesson in all this. Organizations that don't value their people will eventually pay the full cost of their expertise. The only question is whether they learn before the crisis or after. Most choose after. But by then, it's usually too late. The smart ones, the ones who survive and thrive, figure out that the people who actually do the work are worth more than the people who just talk about it. They build cultures where experience matters, where competence trumps credentials, where loyalty is a two-way street. And guys like us, we find our way to those places because we know what we're worth, and we're not afraid to go looking for it. That's not revenge, that's just good business sense.